Welcome to No Such Thing as Normal podcast with Natalie Hayes and Jess McKeown.
This is a casual podcast where we talk about all the things you're not supposed to talk about in order to help you normalize your real life, because we're all just a bunch of weirdos having completely human experience in a society that asks us to pretend like we're not.
And I'm your host, Jess, a gifted spirit baby medium who facilitates deep soul healing by channeling divine messages.
And I'm your other host, Natalie, an intuitive mentor and transformative healer.
Be sure to subscribe where you listen to podcasts, watch our 100% unedited episodes on YouTube, and you can also follow us on Instagram at McJaguar and at Intuitively Natalie for more weirdo and woo-woo content.
And if you like this episode, please rate and review and share it on social media and tag us if your internet's working, so that more people can unleash their weird with you.
Internet not working.
Yeah, what a theme for this year. The internet.
Very much so. Yeah, the internet. So we were just chatting beforehand, just a little bit about like, what if the internet goes out?
What are you gonna
Are
do?
you all prepared? Yeah. Well, we're gonna call each other on our phones. Natalie reminded us that we have phones.
Well, no, not if it's not attached to the internet. Like, does the internet also include cell towers?
No.
Okay, so that's different.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, we still have phones.
Yes, we'll still have phones. But I lived through a massive earthquake in Northridge in 1994. And the phone lines get jammed because everybody's using them, right? So those little telephone operators are like, ooh, 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 ooh. I mean, if you can imagine. So you might not be able to get the calls through. That's the other thing. That's why when we were doing earthquake preparedness, I lived in California, we did it like as part of our school. You always had to have like a meeting place in case you had zero communication, like, okay, meet at this place and we'll all wait for everybody to meet there.
That's what my in-laws and I have, and me and Jenna have been talking about with her family, because we live around her family. And I actually had this conversation with my parents last week. I was like, Mom, there's a bunch of cyber attacks going on. The US isn't excluded from being a target. So like, I was like, what are you going to do if the internet goes down? Like, you and my little brother lives in Dallas with them. So like, you need to have a plan to meet up or like consolidate resources if like the electricity goes out, because we know the electrical grid is sketchy in Texas. Unreliable. So I was like, you have to have a plan. And then my in-laws, Jenna's family living here, we all live kind of within a 15-mile radius of each other. Okay. So we have a central location that we'll meet, but we still need to divvy up who's going to bring what.
Yeah. I mean, I have my little backpack, my emergency backpack, which I got, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, but I don't even know, because that feels like 10 years ago. I feel like I might have had it before, but maybe when there was a lot of fires here in Seattle area, and there was like those, like we had like fire season. And I have to like, put on this backpack and go. And I have a pretty good like bug out plan, if you will.
Yeah.
Like my pets, that's the other thing I was gonna say, is like, think about your pets. Make sure you have food and water and medicine if you need it for your pets. Make sure you have like a travel stuff for them, because we have birds and we can't take their big cages. So we have smaller cages for them. And we've literally like practiced like, okay, like let's get them in the cage and see how that goes. Because when emergency times come, you might like freak out or forget things.
You have to have a plan.
That's why. Yeah.
It's just good to have in general. Just have a plan.
Yeah. And I've never had to activate the like meeting point. It's never been to that level, but hey, these are new times. So let's see what happens.
I'm sure Ukraine didn't think that they would have to formulate a meeting point. Okay. So I watch Under the Desk News.
Okay.
I like her. And we're going to talk a little bit about like discernment with news sources, but I do like her. I can clearly tell she has a more liberal agenda. But just understanding that that's her take on things. But she said that most of the bomb shelters in the Ukraine are like old, they've been turned into strip clubs. So all these people are like bunkering down in strip clubs. Love it. Probably smells great.
I mean, that's kind of like an interesting thing too, to like be in a former Soviet kind of, energy around, what's going on right now. And to see how war has ravaged that place for so long, that now here we are coming back to it again, but they're strip clubs.
Yeah. And
So
restaurants, I think there's some
interesting.
restaurants and stuff too, but a lot of strip clubs.
Is it like coming in the bomb shelter restaurant? Is it like, hey, hey? Is it like a tourist attraction?
No, I feel
Okay.
like it's like, I feel like old Soviet buildings, like kind of all look the same.
Yeah.
That like plain cement, like they
Yes.
all kind of look like a bomb shelter to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of character, not a lot of like
No.
deep history because it's all been destroyed. So I feel like it's just a part of their life. They've just like normalized living in this post-Soviet world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the shit going down right now between Ukraine and Russia is just wild. It's wild to watch. And we talked a lot about, and that's what we want to talk about today a little bit, is like how to be with this, maybe is the best way to put it, right? What can you do? What can you not do? How can you protect yourself? How can you prepare yourself? Because this is a very good example of like the energy that's here right now.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like what we were talking about last week and the week before that, like sitting in really uncomfortable, polarizing energy, and like what do you do? How do you deal with that? So if you're having trouble grounding into yourself and into the present moment and like tuning out and turning inward, like go listen to our last episode because we give a ton of tips.
Yeah. And I would say, like, don't look away,
Yeah.
but look with love, look with boundaries, look with protections, because there are things that you can do. And I'm a part of an energy working community called Healing Touch. This is the type of energy work that I'm trained in. And on Saturday, they sent out a big email for all of us to come together at a certain time and send energy and healing to the grid and to Ukraine. And anyone can do that, right?
At any
You can
time.
just sit there at any time. I like to rub my palms because that makes me feel activated. And then kind of what they're saying is like, that like green globy stuff that they see, like the lines around the globe. Like just imagine tapping into that. You can imagine it however you like. And then directing it to those areas in Ukraine or all of Ukraine. Don't forget to include Russia, right? Like don't just send it to Ukraine, like send it to Russia because we want them to stop the aggression if you want that, or however you want it to be. But like everybody needs it. We're all connected.
Yeah. Regardless of any kind of affiliation you have
Yeah.
or what affinity for whoever side, sending love and light is never going to hurt anything. And we were texting about this last week, how like this is just an interesting time to be at war because everything is on social media. Like there's essentially no hiding from things, and there's also like an overload of information. And I think I said this last week, it's not like you weren't supposed to know what's going on in every corner of the world at every given moment of the day, because you're here in this time and information is so widely available. So it's not like you're not supposed to, but you just have to be really conscious of the boundaries that you have and your social media hygiene that you have. I think it's one thing to be aware, like being aware of what's going on is never a bad thing, having an awareness of it. It's just where it gets a little bit tricky and where your anxiety might get triggered is when you start emotionally investing in it.
Oof, yeah. And how do people like emotionally invest in this?
If you find yourself starting to wake up like at the beginning days of the pandemic and like immediately reaching for your phone and like they called it doom scrolling and what's the latest update, how many people died overnight, that's like,
oh God,
that's
yes,
taking a toll on your mental health. And how can you not care about other people that are getting injured and their lives are in danger on the other side of the planet? It's just, you can, instead of like, because I see content on TikTok, right, from like Ukrainians, and they're posting live feeds of the bombings going on, and like that's terrifying. That's like when you're watching that, you are in a meditative state, so it's like your subconscious can't really discern if you're there or if you're not, so you're having secondary trauma from the events that are happening from them. So instead of aligning with the fear in that moment, like become aware of your mental chatter, like, oh my gosh, this is awful, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Those are like key indicators that you are starting to align with that present moment, even though it's not your current reality. So take a step back and instead send whatever is going on in that video, whoever is affecting, send them love and light from your present moment, your calm, stable, centered, quiet present moment.
Yeah. And I love this so much because when we say love and light, we actually mean doing a process or a meditation or an intentional thing to send, not just signing off on your Instagram post, love and light, not then going and getting your Starbucks. No,
right. Not
like
that.
actually taking time to do that, because what my guides are saying as you're saying that is then that helps to counteract that energy, right? Like it's like a tennis serve they're showing me. It's like they send you that and you send right back love, right? And it will help to neutralize things. Like what they're kind of showing me, wow, they're very excited now, is that if everybody watching those TikToky things were to push back with love and light, what would happen?
Ooh,
So many of them are sitting, I know, but so many are sitting and what they're saying to me is like absorbing the fear. And then what happens is when it starts to happen in their world and closer to home, so to speak, they're already in the fear state. I knew this was coming, da, 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 da. And then they're going to make reactions and responses from the fear state, which is kind of what people want, right? Because then you're easily controllable when you're afraid.
And you're polarized. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also combats the mentality that so many empathic people have, like, I want to do something, I want to help. And if you can't give like monetary donations, and also like, where is that money really going? Because I have no idea. You saw what happened with the GoFundMe in Canada, that the government like took it over.
No, what happened there?
A bunch of people were donating to a GoFundMe for the truckers that are in Ottawa. I think they're still there, even though the news has kind of shifted. Yeah. So there was like millions of dollars in this GoFundMe account for the truckers, like to help support them and like give them food and whatever they needed. And the government seized the funds.
Wow.
So like, who knows where your funds are going? So if you feel like you want to do something, but you know what it is, or you can't give monetarily, you don't know where that money's going, then literally sit and just send them love and light. Like surround, I like to envision, sometimes I'll envision like the country of Ukraine under a globe of light.
Oh, beautiful.
So that way it's not like, I don't know, you're not like picking where you're sending your money, which is abroad. Or you can send it to Russia, send it to Eastern Europe, shoot, put it around the whole globe. God knows we could all use it. But I think that actually does help you feel like you're doing something, feel like you're contributing to help like neutralize the energy, because energy is a huge factor in this. It's not just what's going on the physical plane. There's a lot of energetics.
Yeah. And I want to chat a little bit about like donating too, because you know, there's big organizations and like, you know, there's even like the Red Cross, there's been scandals around people donate and then they don't put it towards things. So I get that. I like charitynavigator.org. So that is essentially like people rate charities. So you can go on there, you can hear these different ones, you can go on there, you can enter it. But I just saw a lot of people are throwing out solutions on the internet. And then the next round of things has been like, and be sure to double check those. But somebody said to go to Etsy and you can like do location based. So you can like find people only in Ukraine. And then you can do digital downloads or digital items so that they don't have to physically pack up something to you and send it to you. And then you can just pay, they get the money, you get your product, right? And like, that's a way that, again, you could buy something and help somebody there, get them that direct cash. That way, you know, it's a real person, so to speak. But what my guides are kind of saying to me is they go, please figure out your donation and give policies, everyone.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's so much now coming up and people are feeling like all sorts of ways. What do I do? Is it helpful? Whatever. $5, yes, it's helpful, because not only is it the donation, but it's your commitment to that organization or that support, or you're showing the universe, you're showing yourself, you're putting energy towards, you know, I want to support this. So think about it that way. Money, again, is just exchange of energy, right? So even if you're just putting $5 worth of energy, you're putting energy towards that in that monetary form.
Yeah. Energy.
Right?
Again, energy. Yeah. There's so much energetics behind this. And I like that you mentioned like going to individual makers on Etsy in the Ukraine. I would have never thought of that. That's a really good
idea. I know that. I mean, the stuff that people are coming up with, it's quite brilliant. And I think we also have a lot of knowledge from the protests from Black Lives Matter that they're like, turn off your location and do this and do that. So you start to see these sort of things being shared around again. And it does kind of bring back, you know, the Black Lives Matter protests, and it does bring back a lot of those traumas. So just be aware that people who have been traumatized for a long time could get re-triggered. Like, just having extra compassion for people right now. You know, we don't really know where this is going, right? Like World War III has been batted around, I think a little too much.
like, I don't want to call something into reality, but I just don't think this is going away anytime soon. I really don't. It feels like a big theme for this year for this to be happening. And
Yeah.
it does feel like a global involvement is going to.
Yeah. I mean, have you met Putin? I mean, come on.
I haven't personally.
I mean, he's just got it all written all over him. That's what I want to say.
But I do want to talk about discernment.
Yes.
When you're consuming news, like none of us in the US are over there. Obviously, if you're in the US, are over there. You know, very few people are actually over there and seeing what's happening or involved in what is happening. So just being really conscious and aware of the news that you're consuming. Everybody who is feeding you a news source has some kind of agenda or some kind of a spin on it that they want you to then align with. So if your news sources are constantly harping on like deaths and death tolls and bombings, and like, then there is some kind of a fear agenda there. It's not that it isn't the truth. Like, I don't know that misinformation actually exists. I don't know that that's actually a thing.
Just multiple truths existing as one.
Yeah.
At once. Yeah.
And on like a personal level, during, when Trump got kicked off of social media, like, I'm not a Trump fan. I understand he served a purpose for the collective, right? He was an agitator. He agitated. Yeah. That was his like soul contract for the collective. But when they censored him, they essentially said, well, we can censor anything. So I did not personally agree with him being censored, because I know the logic behind it was, well, he's inciting hatred, he's inciting fear, he's inciting rage, but nobody can make you feel anything, Trump included. Like, if you're feeling angry or polarized or hate because of the things he says, then those are things that are already present within you. He can't make you do anything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that misinformation actually exists, because it's somebody's truth somewhere.
Yeah. And to your point, knowing discernment, having those abilities to like intuitively tap in, to listen to the body, to listen to the gut, to kind of, make sure that this feels right and good for you. Because again, it's all news. It's all coming at you for like a reason. I mean, I was a media major.
What did you call I love that you call yourself a spin doctor.
I was a spin doctor. Yeah. I mean, I literally remember being in work and they're like, well, just like make it sound better than it is. And I was like,
what's the spin you want to put on it?
Or like, just only talk about this stuff and don't talk about this stuff. And then that way you're being truthful. And I was like,
but you're dangling a carrot. Yeah.
Kind of, but not really, but okay. And yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of this, especially now. I mean, when I went into it as a young college student, I was like, I'm going to save the world and I'm going to tell stories and I'm going to do the truth and everything. And this is why I'm not in this field, because there's none of that there.
There's none of that there. There's always an agenda.
There's always an agenda. And who runs the agenda more so are advertisers, people who have money. I don't want that story in there. Don't put it in there. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. It just felt so yucky. So there's a lot of yuck in there, guys.
There is. It's the system that needs to collapse.
It does. I'm hoping it's one of the ones that's going down, along with government and religion and a whole bunch of other ones, medical systems.
Goodbye to that.
Yeah, but I think, like, how do we help people? Like, okay, maybe I'll just ask you this, Natalie. Like, how do you discern something? When you're watching the news thing, like, how are you like, that's real, that's not, that's good, that's not, like, what is your process?
Well, I hate the news. I don't watch the news. Step one. Step two, I shifted the belief that nothing that is for me will ever pass me by, right? So I'm always going to be shown what I need to know. Yeah. Information is going to come to me in the way that I need it, in the time that I need it. So I have that kind of belief program and like trust there. So I don't stress about FOMO. Like, I don't have any like fear of missing out. It'll come to me if it needs to, if it's going to affect me, I'll know it in some way. But also I like to check in with my guides regularly, and like the only truth that I like to align with is like is like a love agenda. Like, is this coming from love? What do they actually want me to
I
do
love
with
that.
this information? Just
Mhm.
kind of I don't know if this is a projector thing, but like being able to tell when people are lying to you or when people are inflating or exactly, like, is that
Yeah.
a projector thing? I've been called like a human lie detector. Like, I can tell when it's not the truth.
Okay, this is what I think, because the way that projectors work, we like envelop our aura with somebody else's. So I think like we kind of can step into their truth. And if it feels off, we can tell that it's
And
off.
subscribe.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love that though. Is it coming from a love agenda?
Yeah, like, is this trying to create more division? Is this trying to create more
Mm,
fear? Because then that's somebody's profiting off of that somewhere, somehow.
yeah.
And how can I view this from a more loving place? Like, it's like, yes, and like, yes, Russia invaded Ukraine and Russia is hurting. Like,
Mhm.
Russia, this does not mean that all of its people have invaded the country of Ukraine. There are protests still going on in Russia.
Yeah.
They still are under kind of a dictator rule.
Oh,
So like, they're also oppressed while their leaders are invading Ukraine. Like, there's just two sides to every story, which is why I don't believe in misinformation. I think it's a truth for somebody somewhere.
yeah. I think for me with discernment, especially, I'm like really thinking about those, but, and I also think, just to add to that, like this feeling of like, how does it make you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
Does it make you feel
when
scared?
you're consuming this, do you feel good? Do you feel inspired to donate, inspired to send light and love, inspired to have conversations with people about it, inspired to get prepared
Yeah.
for, things coming our way? Or, do you just kind of sit there in the fear? Do you notice yourself being more angry? Do you notice yourself kind of expelling things? Because what my
Anxious.
guides are showing me is, if you're soaking this into your body, if you're taking it from the Ukrainians or the Russians and everything, and then you go out and dispel it over here, like that's how it translates, right? It's like, they're like, hello, didn't Corona just teach you that? Like, we are
Yeah.
so connected as humans, energetically, biology, what is that? Physiology? What's the word?
Physiology. Whatever, basically, like, whatever you look for, you will find. Wherever
Yeah.
your focus goes, energy flows. So if you're looking for fear, if you are looking for reasons to be scared and fearful,
Yeah.
you'll find them. And you'll find them
Yeah.
not only on the internet, you'll find them in your neighborhood, in your house, in your local community. You'll
Yeah.
find them. So like, what do you want to find? What is the reality that you're trying to create for yourself?
Ooh, and then my guides are kind of saying, and if you're finding them, if you're actually finding fear and stuff in your own communities and whatever, then the next question they're asking is, and then what are you going to do about it?
What are you going to
Because
do?
if you're a fear finder, is what they're saying to me, great. Like if that's what you're wanting to see right now, need to see that, there's a reason behind that.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about you calling in and wanting to see all this, that if you could just observe that or be aware of that,
Yeah. What's it giving you?
yeah, what's it feeding you? What's it telling you? Do you feel unsafe in your body? And so this unsafety here, do you feel unstable? Okay, so unstable, like just be aware that it's going to match your energy. It's all vibrations. It's going to match.
Oh.
So stay in the high vibrations.
Yeah, really get in touch with your intuition, get in touch with yourself, get in touch
Mm-hmm.
with your guides, and be able to discern what is right for you and what is right for someone else. I've talked about it before, but you can ask your guides to show you what alignment feels like to you. What is yes? What does alignment feel? And then ask them to show you what no, what unalignment feels like. And then you can take those truths and hold them in your mind and ask your guides, like, is this a yes or a no for me? Is this alignment
Yeah.
or unalignment for me?
Oh, I love that. Because it's kind of what they're saying is like everybody has to be in touch with their own internal navigation system.
Right. What's right for you? What's truth for you?
Intuition.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not, it might not be the case for somebody else, and that's okay.
Yes. And the other thing they're showing me is that like everybody's on different soul levels, on different soul plans. So it's less about trying to stop things or trying to control things or trying to be worried about things. And it's more about how are you going to respond? And I think you said it a lot. Like, it's the only thing we can control is our reaction, right?
Yeah.
And our what else? What else can we control?
Oh, was it
Our
creation?
thoughts and our reactions.
Yeah, maybe. I don't
The
remember.
control freak in me is like, what did Natalie say we can
What can I
control?
control? Because I'm going to put it on my list. These are the things I can control.
Well, for the control freaks out there, it's good to know what we can and can't do.
Exactly. Oh, you can't control
Yeah.
the outcome to anything. Yeah, you can't control the
Yeah.
outcome. It's really
Yeah.
just the reaction.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I guess what they're kind of showing me is a lot of people like have a lot of heaviness and don't know how to expel it from their body.
They're just carrying it. We're so conditioned to carry it without like clearing it out.
Yeah. Listen to the last episode.
Yes.
You know, DM us for other ideas and options, but yeah, get yourself a clearing process, get yourself a cleansing process, get yourself a protection process. Like, I don't know. I feel like my guys are beating the drum. They're like, just say this every podcast, you know, like making sure the intuitives and the awakened ones are protected. I was just telling Natalie, like I went out shopping and I was with first time being in a store in like a long time. And I'm just so much more sensitive now. I'm just so much more open to people and their energies. And so maybe you are too, right? So maybe your old or past protection methods need to be upgraded or looked at or added to, you know?
Yeah, you're not the same person that you were going into 2020. Like you are
no.
a totally different version of yourself coming out of what we've all gone through.
I'm just laughing because like I'm about to have my birthday in March and it's my 3rd pandemic birthday.
Woo!
And I just had this like thought the other day that I was like, remember all of us are like 2020.
We were so excited.
So excited. It's just like I was like, oh,
bless our hearts.
We're so cute.
Yeah, that was cute.
No idea, right? And I think my guide showed me that to be like, you know, like, and now we have an idea. Now we know kind of what's here. And not that this is going to be the flavor forever, but this is the current flavor for a while. Like we talked about, it's not going to snap away at any time soon because there's so much work to be done.
I drop your earbud.
I always drop things into my boobs. God, I mean, at least my boobs can catch things.
Exactly. See, look, there's a positive spin. That's how to change your perspective. What a great example.
Yes.
Okay, so one thing we haven't talked about, we talked about Russia and Ukraine and how to give without, you know, monetary and setting space, protecting your energy, having good social media hygiene. There was you were talking about a meme that you've seen circulating that kind of bothered you.
Yeah. Okay. So gosh, I wish I could find it, but this is a casual podcast, so we don't have notes.
Right.
But it was pretty much like, I'm sure you have seen it. It was pretty much like, there's so much going on in this world, and don't feel bad if you like can't respond, and don't feel bad if it's too much, and don't feel bad if you don't know what to do and everything. And I was like, yes. And I always feel like these memes, like where it's like, it's okay not to be okay. I always feel like there's a missing part, right? Where it's like, it's okay not to be okay, but then go find the pathway back to okay.
Yeah, what do you
we
do
don't want
about
you to
it?
say it's not okay.
Yeah.
And same thing here, it's like, it's fine to be like overwhelmed and I don't know where to go. And I felt that way too, because the information about trans kids came out, Ukraine, Russia, and I was just like bombarded, like, where do I go? But like, also they want you to feel bombarded. They want you to feel like, oh, I can't do anything. Everything's going on. I'm just going to stay here in this hole and do nothing. No, you've got to ground yourself and come back into what can we do? And here's the thing that I don't love about this meme. It's like, I don't want it to be taken as an excuse to do nothing. Because you can send light and love, you can meditate, you can ground yourself, you can change your perspective, you can do discernment work. Like there's so much that you can do. But yes, feel those feelings, right? Feel the overwhelm. And I don't know, like, do people still need permission to feel that stuff?
I think yes. But on the other hand, see, I don't mind that meme. I actually like that meme.
Yeah.
Because I think there are people that are primary caregivers for their parents, have medically complicated children. Like they don't have a full cup to pour from to also give a shit about the Ukraine, because it's not in their immediate reality. They've got a lot going on their plate. And I don't think every person was meant to fight every battle on this planet. There are going to be things that come close to your heart that you feel passionate about, that affect you, that are like, yes, I need to donate. Yes, I want to get engaged in the activism around this issue. But not everybody has to care about everything. That's why there's so many of us on this planet. Like,
true.
If you have an overwhelming life already, like it's okay to disengage. There are other people who have the space to care and dedicate and, protest.
Yes. Just, like, and I think that's true. Like diffusing that is like, that's helpful energy to just be like, yes, we can't do everything. And nor do we have the passion and the care for all the things. Right. But for the things that you do, pay attention to those and support those. And even if it is your family, right, in your own small little tiny world. But my guys are saying, they say like push yourself to expand beyond your nucleus, push yourself to see us as all connected. Whether or not, or about what's going on in Ukraine, it's still affecting you because we're all on the same energy line. So even if it's just what they're kind of seeing is like, don't shut it out, but you also don't have to let it fully in.
Be aware. Like there's nothing wrong with being aware of what's going on. And if all you can give is 5 minutes to send energetic love and light, then that's it. That's the role.
Yeah. Yeah. And my guys are just saying like, please do that because it also helps you. So anytime you send energy, anytime you send light and love, you are becoming a channel for that. And it will give you like a little boost, a little cleanse. So that's why it's helpful to also do this work. They say the grid work because you receive as well, or you are empowered as well through that energy. So if you have the capacity and you can, you do get a boost from that.
You do. Yeah. Connecting to a cause greater than yourself, the collective.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on, people.
Come on.
We can do it.
We can do it. Okay. So trans kids, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Hot topic right now.
I mean, let me tell you, Greg Abbott has been in my meta meditations. I've been sending that motherfucker love and light. I don't get how he gets on this pride horse. He gets all like, da, 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 and it's just, but I think at this point right now where they are with this, I feel like it's violence against that community. I feel like saying that the parents can be, interviewed as by social services as being
abuse.
I mean, come on. And look, here's the thing, right? Everybody has their opinions about transgender and reassignment surgeries and kids being young and developmental. I've read all the stuff. I'm so fascinated by this topic, especially as the babies come in and they tell me these things, right? So it's been a topic of interest for me, but it's just like, this is not a love agenda. This is not helping in any way. Who is it helping?
Right.
Who is this serving? Like the super like conservative religious people? I don't even know.
In a way, in a sense, it's creating more division, more fear, separatism.
So I like immediately texted some of my, social worker and therapist friends, and I was like, who can I donate? And there's a place in Texas, in Austin called Out Youth. And then there's a couple other ones. And so they're going to be one of my donations this month or I guess February and March, because yeah, man, I want them to have resources and help. And it breaks my heart. These are kids and we're using them in a battlefield this way. That's not right to me.
I know. Kids, I feel like are always the ones that end up getting hurt the most.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I want to be so protective of them. That's why I want to have this layer of support for them.
What do the trans spirit babies coming in, what do they say about it?
They're here to take away the concept of gender and the binary. They're here to let us exist because we used to exist in all different forms in all different ways. And it's like, if you take that away from people allowing themselves to express across the whole spectrum, it's a denial of self, they say, like a DNS attack, but a denial of self. And it's just not like they're saying, like congruent with where we're going and what is needed for the future. I have a lot of clients and parents who are like scared that their kids might be trans when I kind of will communicate some of the messages. And, they're like, I don't want my kid to feel like they're trapped in a body. Right. And I'm just like, maybe they're coming in because you're going to advocate for them in a way that doesn't make them feel that way or changes the perspective around that way. Because I think what the current like kind of communication around the trans experience will be different as it progresses and these kids come in, right? Like right now it's still in that awareness stage, right? Remember we used to call it transvestites.
Oh yeah, cross-dressers.
Cross-dressers, and the lexicon and the language has been updated, right? Pronouns, even just asking for people's pronouns, like what an accomplishment for the community to realize, hey, we're not all he, she's,
It's crazy. I
There's
mean,
other options.
I think Native Americans I read somewhere had 5 genders, but
Yeah.
that
Oh my
like
God.
that history
Two-spirit.
has been erased. Yeah, that
Yeah.
history was erased.
Okay. Netflix, Jonathan Van Ness, he has an episode and he talks with a bunch of different trans activists on it. And there's a two-spirit activist on there. Oh my God. Listen to this. So the two-spirit said, so like the men do some stuff and the women do some stuff. And then the two-spirit, they teach the children how to do both, because they're out, the men and women are out doing their things. And the two-spirits teach. And I'm like, oh, it's just like tears. I cried so much in that episode, Jonathan, just so you know. I want to be BFFs with Jonathan Van Ness. But even Jonathan Van Ness, like if you watch him on Queer Eye, like he now is wearing full-on dresses and heels and fully embracing his, you know, what does he call himself? Like a non-binary queen or something, just beautiful. I love his energy. So why not? It's just fucking clothes. It's just fucking expression. Like, let people be who they want to be. That's why I think this movement is here and why it's so important to protect it and not let it get, you know, turned over to the courts as child abuse. No.
Agreed. That's not helping.
I will not let that happen. No.
Yeah. And I feel like if you're feeling triggered, like if trans people trigger you, right? If you're like, I don't know, it's too hard for me to use they, them. I don't, what am I supposed to call them? Then you have an over-identification with your own gender.
Ooh.
If it triggers you, and which is why this is so interesting that it's mostly religious far right that are persecuting trans and like, no, it's wrong. It's, you know, an abomination or whatever.
That was good.
Like me too, samesies. But I feel like it's just that they over-identify. They've been taught so much to over-identify with their gender and their specific binary gender roles that, yeah, it is triggering for them, because what would it mean without these roles? Who would they be if they weren't a straight white man? Who would you be?
Oh yeah. And I mean, this shows up a lot in the birthing community, you know, and people are like, you have to be a woman to birth. Surprise, you don't.
You don't.
Right? That flips people's lids and they cannot compute. And that's because they're so tied to this mother archetype. But good God, doesn't that need an update? Yes.
It does.
Yes. So if we can release from this mother, whatever, this is how I kind of see it now. This like goddessy mother like a thing. It's like, that's in all of us. I mean, every body type, every human on this has a masculine and a feminine energy. Energy, again, just energy.
It is just energy.
Yeah, I think that's cool that people, check how attached you are to your identities.
And your gender roles, and like, what would it mean for you if it offends you that someone else, a man, body hair, someone who was born with a wiener, can dress in women's clothing and wear makeup and express themselves in that way. If that bothers you, then you have a problem with masculine identifying as feminine.
Yeah.
It's just a binary that you are being triggered by.
Yeah. And they're not trying to be a woman. They're just trying to express themselves. They're not trying to be like, surprise, I'm a woman. It's like, no, you know. I lived in San Francisco and I've met many beautiful trans people. I actually remember I was at this club and this trans woman had these amazing boobs. And I was like, I need to know, how do you get the boobs? And they showed me, they took them out in the middle of the club, just like so excited that I wanted to know how they did that, how they made the boobs look so good. And it was just a moment. And, you know, like, they're just people, just like you and me. They just want to live their truth and they just want to express things. And I think his name is Alok, A-L-O-K.
Yes, I follow
him. His responses are amazing, you know, and he says a lot of that. He's like, I'm sorry that this is bringing up something in you that you hate about yourself, right?
Exactly.
And it's like, ooh, you know,
you were feeling threatened by something in yourself. If you're a man and you're threatened by trans people, it's because you were never taught or conditioned to love those feminine, flowy parts of yourself. If you're a woman and you're triggered by male identifying people giving birth, then you are having some kind of an over-identification with the role of mother and being a woman and what that means to you. And well, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's just your conditioning. You're over-attaching to this identity.
And you can decondition. That's the great thing.
You can. It's not you. It's your conditioning. That should have been our alternate podcast title.
That'll be our next mug.
It's not you. It's your conditioning.
Your conditioning. Or t-shirts. Don't blame my conditioning. but also I wanted to, that's why we have to protect trans people, right? So again, if we think about us signing up, coming in, doing the work, they signed up for some big ass work and they're very vulnerable. And if they're going to switch, a big kind of like binary switch that we're here, we must protect, and that's kind of why I feel it's important to like donate and support them in that way because they're doing big work.
Yeah, look in your local communities and see about outreach programs. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on some grand scale, like intuitive activism, right? An intuitive approach to social activism. If you're not a big, like, get out there and go and march and rally, and if that's not your jam, then what can you do in your local community? How can you support those people in your local community when you're out and you see somebody being prejudiced against, or something happening? Then you can speak up in that moment for that person, and that is doing the work. That is the activism.
Yes. Oh my God, so good. And they're just like, my guides are like applauding. They're just like, yes, like it's important to be aware of what's going on and be creative in how you want to contribute, right? Like I have my friend who has a crystal store. She's doing all the crystals from the Ukraine and Russia because they have great crystals. She's donating, a certain percentage to certain funds, right? To like support them. And it's like, look, we have a business, we still got to sell stuff, but like, why not take that and use it to donate and use it to kind of draw attention, right? While also kind of, and I don't, people are like, oh, is she capitalizing on it, that kind of thing. I don't think so. I think people are being creative and they're being like, let's use what's already kind of going on. Let's create a happy, safe place for people to look at crystals. When I go and look at her work, it's just like, oh, it's so beautiful. I feel safe. And then I buy something and it goes towards Ukraine. Like, how beautiful.
It's not, right? Yeah, I wouldn't, like, maybe it is capitalizing on it, but that doesn't mean it's exploiting it. Like there's a difference.
Yeah. I think it's just like staying relevant in the conversation, right? With things,
doing what you can with what you have.
Yeah. And donating stuff and making, this awareness, like, let's not just ignore it, I guess. There's so much of that. It's so easy to ignore. And again, back to that meme, we are tired, right? This has been a lot for everyone, and I think maybe in the beginning of 2021, like, what year are we on? 2021, we kind of were like reminding ourselves, oh, we've been in a pandemic, and it's like, we have to do that again. We have to be like, this has not been normal times, right?
Never will be again. Hate to break it.
Never will be again. Yeah.
Let's go full circle here. So we're tired. I really think the internet coming down is going to give us a break. If the internet goes down, there's a way to look at it. You could align with fear. Oh my God, what's going to happen? What's happening now? Or you can be like, oh God, the universe is giving us this spring break.
I know. I love that you said that. Then you're going to call your friends on your phone or on your landline, if you have a landline.
Meet with your family, check out. I mean, buy some candles, go by candlelight at night. Like, there are just ways to make this enjoy. Like, you get to decide how you experience anything. So
yeah. And and what they're kind of showing me is like, what about the people though that have been displaced? Like, what my guides are showing me, it's like, it's hard for them to think that things are going to be okay, right? Like over here, sitting on my couch in America, like much easier for me to maybe do some discernment work, do some grounding work, do this kind of stuff. I'm not being rushed out of my home. I'm not having mortars and bombs flying over me. So what do we say to people there in that experience? Like, it's hard for them to probably see the bright side, or
right. I can see how they would maybe feel cut off or feel in the dark, or you honestly you have to look for the good. You have to look for the good. That's the only way I would be able to survive it, is if I was consciously making an intentional effort to look for the good that's still going on, the good, that things I do have. Like, I do that when I'm in a bad mood, right? Or like things aren't going my way, like this fertility journey, Jesus Christ. I really have to come back to what is it that I still love about my life, and like getting in that vibration, it helps, even if the world is falling apart. That's what it is. You only have control over your reactions and your experiences.
There we go. I knew
there it is.
But I think if the internet goes down, I don't know. I think it will be a nice break for people. I think it will be, people can't work. People can't, literally. it might kind of what they're kind of saying to me is like, it might give you a view into how much you use it in your life, how much is a part of your life, and if you want to continue for it to have that role in your life, that high of a
Yeah.
role.
Yeah.
And it's fine if you want it to, but like
Choice.
observe it. They're kind of saying like, we're giving you opportunities to observe your connections to things, your use of things, the ability for them to get out of control or unstable. Like, be aware.
Detach, unattach. And what did your guide say before we hopped on? You were like, the internet's going to go down and we're not going to be able to work because, you know, both of you and I have internet-based businesses.
Hello.
But your guide said, like, don't even try to work. It's going to be futile.
Yeah, it is.
Futile.
Oh yeah, they were saying like, there's going to be people who are going to like freak out and like, oh my God, and I can't work and da da da. And it's like, nobody can. So again, making it worse than it actually is what causes the stress and the disease and everything else, right? And to your point, like, yeah, I mean, we can't control the bombs and we have to move from our house or whatever if we're Ukrainian, but we can be like, I'm so grateful that I'm with my family, or I'm so grateful that I have food, or that I was able to get out before, like all the things. Like sometimes when you're in scary situations, yeah, looking for the good and the hopeful is the stairway out to that higher vibration.
It is. Yeah. And I feel like I was talking to my best friend about this, I think last week. Like, if you can't come to a place, like if you're in a really negative place and you can't come to positivity, like that's just too big of a frequency jump for you to make in that moment. Just come to neutrality. Come to neutrality. And then maybe from neutrality, you can go to positivity. But if you're in a really negative headspace, how can you neutralize what's going on around you? How can you just come to a neutral space?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like, like when I talk to you, I'm just like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Like, I know what to do. And then I like look out at humanity. I'm like, oh, fuck, they have no idea. They don't know how to do this. I'm just like, and I think that's part of it too. It's like, when you're like, life is good, I'm happy, people can throw shade at you. Oh, how dare you? You're not thinking, you're not upset, you're not angry. Aren't you concerned about Ukraine? It's like, yeah, bitch, I sent love and light this morning. Let me get my grapefruit,
Okay, but if you're attracting hate, shade, trolls,
yeah,
then there's a part of you that believes you deserve it.
I think not necessarily like attracting it, but just more, I think in general, people can kind of like stigmatize those who are. Natalie, I hate you.
Jess, I see
I'm like,
I see the ego. I see the ego backlash. I see it.
Yeah.
I acknowledge your ego backlash, but there is still a part. It is still a part that you are attracting if you're experiencing it.
I mean, I'm not attracting it.
Right.
But somebody else may be attracting. Is that what you're saying?
Right. If you're experiencing any kind of backlash for your peace of mind, then there is a part of you that believes that you deserve that backlash for having a peace of mind. Typically people pleasers, typically people who have a martyr, culture.
Recovering over here. So
we're recovering.
Probably why I brought that up.
If you attract shade, it's okay. You're just attracting it.
It's so hard to take responsibility sometimes.
I know. I only know this because of
You're brilliant.
No. Well, okay, maybe. But like doing all of this subconscious work with Psych K and like the beliefs and attracting and like I have done so much personal work being in a polarizing environment in healthcare. Like I don't agree with all of healthcare's agendas. I really don't. And the only time that I attracted scenarios or people that challenged that is when I wasn't standing firm enough in my decisions and my choices.
And is the whole point of attracting that for us to be aware of that and overcome it?
Right. Like there's a part of you that is still believing the opposite.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It's okay, but it can make your life miserable if you're not aware of it.
I know. I'll just say it. It's really hard for me I've tried to stay really neutral about like vaccines and all of that. And I just want to say like, I am not vaccinated. And so the situation that I'm referring to, why I know that this is how attraction works.
Yeah.
Is because working in healthcare, right? We were mandated to get vaccines. I ended up getting a religious exemption.
Yeah. What's your religious exemption?
That is personal. but I got it.
You're like, I am a spaghetti monster.
I do not agree. Yes.
Okay.
But I got a religious exemption, and then I noticed that all of my coworkers, were feeding into one side of the narrative, very pro-vax, very, this is the only way to go. This is the only way to combat things. And so I was immersed as the only one in my department that was not vaccinated. And I started attracting situations where people would flat out ask me, are you vaccinated? In front of other people. And it bothered me. I got offended. I got defensive. And so there was a part of me that still believed that I wasn't allowed to make that choice for myself. And so once I figured that out, why I was attracting it, I had a PA ask me in front of a patient, which is just so, like, you're supposed to be providing non-biased care. That's not, that's counterintuitive. So went home, shifted, that I allow myself to like have a different truth, basically, or be in my own truth in a situation that differs from it, and being okay and being comfortable and really sound in my resolve with my decisions, and then immediately stopped trying. Nobody ever asked me again.
Whoa.
So I know that that's how that attraction works. If you're attracting it, there's a reason.
Okay, because this is kind of making me think of just about like all experiences, right? Because so much operates from the subconscious. Like, we come here as little babies, we get our programming into our subconscious, and then we kind of spend the rest of our life unpacking that, working through it, overcoming it. It's like we get our lessons and then out we go. But why isn't there like a better way to get in touch with our subconscious?
I think that there are better ways coming.
Oh, okay.
I think that there are better ways that are coming. I mean, I feel like I might create something that makes it easier to tap into than, going into a deep meditative state and journaling for hours. And I think there are faster ways coming.
I think we're going to need it for people to kind of like get on board and understand this concept, like, I think if people can understand this, they can shift so much in their life and in the world, right?
So
when
much.
they stop thinking that things are happening and, oh my God, and the victim, right? Like, or the ego, like, if that's my ego loves to show up on this podcast.
The ego backlash is real. It's
lovingly
real.
slapped by Natalie. Jeff. Now, Jeff.
Not true. Could be.
True. Could be.
Could be.
I do say that a lot more now, though, and it does feel better. It does feel like there's the expansion for all things to exist. Could be.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It's so freeing. If you try it out this week in your daily life, somebody has a different opinion than you, just say, could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. I don't know.
Who told you that?
Yeah, don't consider defensive.
I know sometimes people say things from a place I'm like, do you have a secret book that I don't know about?
Some people just align really heavily with certain ideals, and that's their journey.
Yes. My guides are showing me just this idea of like a weightiness, like when a lot of people align with something, that kind of gives it a weightiness. It kind of gives it a heavier than all of its parts. That's interesting. But the opposite is also true.
Yeah, it is. All truths exist. We
can shift things. Let's shift things.
Yeah, guys. And I will say, as a caveat, because I feel like I outed myself, there's so much like, I saw a meme that said, like, thank God for the war because it ended the pandemic.
Oh my gosh, I know.
But I will never tell you what to do with your body. I do not care if you have been vaccinated. I do not care if you haven't been vaccinated.
Yeah.
I do not care. I believe that you can transmute anything you want to. If you are vaccinated and then you have fears, like you can transmute anything. I do not care. You do what you do with your body. There is no right or wrong decision there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, all this is happening right now for a very big reason, right?
Huge.
Sovereignty, body sovereignty.
It is about sovereignty. Like, if they can mandate a vaccine, then they can also mandate abortions. I just like that. It's such a fine line. Like we were talking about with censorship, they can censor Trump. They could censor somebody else.
Yeah.
But there's a fine line.
Yeah. And it's hard when you're on the side of like, yeah, I want Trump to be off of Twitter. So you're like, yeah, but it's like, then the next time, because the wheel turns, and Tara, we know this, it's going to be your person who's going to get censored because of it, so it's like, we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful and very aware of what is being, what I want to say is like put into law, especially, and this abortion stuff too, man, the babies are livid about it. And it's just not right. Like, it's my body. It's my choice.
Exactly.
Period. That's it.
Across
you don't have
the
a
board.
uterus. Yes. Yes. Across the board.
Your
Yeah.
body, your choice.
Yeah. What do you want to do? It's going to be so interesting to like look back on this. I had this vision of like my kids asking me like, Mom, what was it like to be in the pandemic? You know, like those, like when you like ask your parents, like, what was it like to see Kennedy shot or like watch the moon launch or whatever it is, like all these big historical events. I'm like, oh, I cannot wait for that conversation.
Let me tell you, it's a lot of puzzles, and not a lot of speeding tickets.
So there's this thing called sourdough bread. Yeah, it's like, you know, year 1 of the pandemic, year 2 of the pandemic, year 3 of the pandemic. So we're still here.
We're still here.
We've still got internet for now.
Yes. Maybe at the time that this comes out, like we won't. Like, who knows? We don't know.
Who knows when this episode comes out? We think it's next week, but we don't know.
We don't know. On that note, we've talked about Russia, Ukraine, trans kids, intuitive approaches to social activism. Again, if you're having trouble disengaging, please, please, please go listen to last week's episode and get yourself some tips for grounding and recentering.
Yeah. And then if you're finding yourself triggered, like about vaccination questions or, you know, standing in, you know, your belief to do love and light and feeling attacked by the shadows, everything, go see Natalie and she'll help you shift that shit.
Come see me.
Right?
I will hold the most neutral space for you to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if you want to talk to your babies about when they're coming in and, you know, like, don't be worried. They know what they're coming into. Like so many parents like, oh my God, I can't believe I had a baby and a kid and I did this to them. It's like,
you didn't do it to them. They chose.
They know.
They chose.
It's a big hole and a big slide and it's a big ass fucking process to come to Earth.
Yes.
Yes. So just trust that they are here, they're signed up, they're ready to go, and encourage them.
Yes. It's going to be beautiful. Whatever you decide to do with your life this week when the internet goes down. It's going to be great. We hope you enjoy it and we will see you again next week. Hopefully. I don't know.
Until then.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.